Josh Elledge is here. He's a third-time guest. He's the Fractional Chief Revenue Officer with over 15 years of experience building revenue through the podcast ecosystem. He's launched over 300 podcasts for clients, hosted 3,000 episodes across his shows. He's made 3,000 plus traditional media appearances, and his clients have collectively generated more than $40 million using relationship-driven podcast guesting strategies. But today, he's moved on to even cooler stuff, which is called Pod Verified, which is a credentialing and placement platform raising the standard for ethical podcast guesting. He's also the host of The Thoughtful Entrepreneur, one of the most active interview podcasts in the business space. So, Mr. Josh Elledge, great to see you again.
Robert, it is so great to be here. It's cool to be part of the Three Timers Club. I feel like that's at Saturday Night Live. They have the Five Timers Club, and they all get to hang out with Steve Martin in the lounge. I feel like we need the Robert Plank Three Timers Club, and we all get to hang out.
I think we need to, and I mean, I'm sure you have something like that with your own, like with a couple of thousand episodes. You have some people that have been there like 3-5 times plus.
Yeah, when somebody delivers value consistently and the audience responds and engages, that's a clue, right? And what we're actually going to be talking about is, how to become one of those guests who not only gets invited back, but also, how you can, like, if you're going to be serving audiences on podcasts or traditional media, how to get audiences to engage, because the vast majority of audiences aren't going to do anything. And when I say the vast majority, like 99%, you can really up that number, but it absolutely takes some skills. Just like, if you wanted to make it, as a public speaker, you're probably going to need to work on your speaking skills. Even if you're really smart, you're very articulate, you know your stuff, there are simply rules of engagement that make a huge difference if you'll just learn what those rules are and then get very good at that when you have the opportunity to serve those audiences.
And it looks so easy, right? When you see people when they're so slick and they can be on podcasts and be super polished or be on the news, and then and so it's like deceptively easy, isn't it? And you think that like your ego gets in the way. You're like, oh, I don't need to learn this kind of stuff. But then someone like you would say, well, hey, this is all like really important. And so like where does even the starting point, right? Because if someone says, well, I see like Josh here, he's like in the news or he's on podcasts. Some people say like start with your website or your branding or your speaker sheet or just get on shows, or like where do we even begin to untangle this?
Yeah, so typically, and again, just to, kind of further add on to this major point here, and if anyone, to our friend that's listening, if you've ever goofed around and done any kind of improv or whatever, that would be another really great example. It looks so natural for those folks. But what you're not seeing, having taken about a year of improv classes, are all of the rules that are going on that are so subtle, so subconscious. And again, if you learn the rules, you learn how to engage better with both audiences and your fellow players. So where do we start? That's a great question. And Robert, obviously the biggest thing is you need to get very clear on who you are and what your media brand is. And it's one thing for you to just say, or, to our friend that's listening, well, I think I'm going to be this, and that's what I'm going to be known for. Well, there are a lot of traps out there. And the first and easiest one, obviously, is that if you are just a marketing guy or a leadership consultant and that's it, it's going to be really hard to work with you and sell your expertise. And the reason why is that as we start reaching out to media, as we start reaching out to podcasters, I was just talking with a gal, she was a story brand consultant. And I got to tell you that, and I'm sure you've had story brand consultants, it's a wonderful area of expertise. I've had a bunch. Right. So when a story brand expert comes on like, I'm known as the story brand guy. I'm like, man, if you ain't Donald Miller, then you're just another licensee, and again, I'm not saying this out loud, but I'm just saying I've had a ton of story brand people. So you're going to have to find something a little bit more unique so that you can get the podcaster or the producer or, again, whoever you're working with on the team now of, the stage that you want to get on, you're going to need to get them to a position where they're like, oh my gosh, well, I've never had anybody like Josh Elledge or Robert Plank. Nobody talks about this in this way. And that's one of the first things you need to be able to do is you got to make that decision on what is your lane. Because if you're a generalist, it's going to be very hard for you to get momentum. So you got to figure that out. Step 2, very simple. And by the way, I would not make that decision by yourself. I would not make those decisions with AI. AI is going to give you the worst answers in the world for that question because of its deference to you. And it's, it's just going to tell you whatever you say is brilliant, right? It's just AI is just really bad at this sort of thing. And I wish that weren't the case, but I've just seen people come in like, oh, this is what AI said. And I said, that's not going to work, man. Just going to tell him it's going to be very fun. So find a human that you can work with. It is really critical. Someone who's done this thousands of times. I've got a bunch of free stuff over at my website. Even if you never even let me know you're there, you'll learn a lot of these skills and how to take this and make better decisions with some of these really important things that you need to get figured out at the beginning. Right. So anyway, you're welcome to go to Pod Verified. You'll see a bunch of free stuff there where we'll help you kind of figure this stuff out, even if we never work together. Great question, Robert.
Oh, thank you very much. And, at the very tail end of there, there's a little subtext about this idea that like there is a lot of, I don't know, like waste probably is the bad term for it. But like we kind of have to give a lot of stuff away, don't we? Like you have to have all these stuff on your website that serves people that will never work with you. And when you do like the speaking, podcasting, prospecting, you'll be doing a lot of like speaking gigs that kind of maybe don't really lead to things or lead to things in unexpected ways. And so when you kind of train people up to do some of this, is there any kind of like mindset retraining or reframing? Because it is kind of like hard to get your head around that. There's so much work to be done with like the branding, the messaging, the prospecting, and like not all of it will pay off.
No, you're absolutely right. And in fact, so I'll just kind of continue with a couple of other things here, as we're talking about next steps, and you segued into this perfectly, is that, when we're thinking about performance, the first thing that I think a lot of people expect to do, and everyone thinks that they are perfectly competent to go out and just do a bunch of media. And the reason why they think that they're perfectly competent to do that is because it seems easy and they know their stuff. And what I would say is that it is not enough to be really smart and even successful at what you do and answer in complete sentences and give people as much information as you can in 20 minutes, 30 minutes, or however much time you have, right? That's actually the wrong instinct. It's a noble instinct. I appreciate that you want to be so generous, but that really does the audience a major disservice. So for example, if you said, Josh, how do you fix your marriage? Or how do you quit arguing so much with your spouse? And I say, well, it's really simple, Robert. All you need to do is blah, 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 right? And then I answer it in 10 seconds. And I treat it like that's the be all end all, the only thing you need to know. I have just done that audience such a huge disservice because that's not the right answer for the majority of people. It's certainly not a complete answer. So I think that when we are out and we talk in definitive terms of like complete, giving complete answers, again, that is a major problem. Like when you do that, and then you couple that with, I think the other thing that you were referencing is that you do need to show up in generosity. And the generosity isn't, I'm going to answer all of your questions in the next 20 minutes. That's not realistic. You are not going to do that. So you may as well just give up on that hope. Now you want to give value, but the value should be a hybrid between what it is that you share, and it needs to be a hybrid of what you give away and what you make available. What resources are you offering? If it's just your voice in that 20 minutes, well, no wonder no one's coming and booking time with you. There's, when you're called to action, and you can tell me your experience with this. I bet I know the answer. If you think about what people come prepared to give away for free, right? And it is buy my book, book a call with me, or join my newsletter. Those are the three most common calls to action. I'm going to tell you right now, that's not going to work with probably 95% of the population. So you have just actively told that 95% got nothing for you other than if you want to book a call. They don't want to book a call with you. Someone book a call with you is scary for them. It seems audacious for someone to book a call with you. And they also don't want to be on a sales call, even if you say it's not a sales call. Well, now you just flagged it, even if they weren't thinking about it, that it is a sales call in some way, right? You have a business goal. You are in business for yourself. You have a moral obligation to sell. You have a moral obligation to grow your business. Of course, you need to use that in order to grow your business, right? So you're going to need to come ready. So for example, what I'll share here, and I'm kind of going on and on this question. I'm violating my own rules. Don't do what I do. Do what I say. But what I was going to share is that again, your resources that you give need to be valuable. So things that you can get people to your website and spend time with you there are going to convert and perform so much better than folks out on social media or listening to a podcast, particularly podcasts, right? Because right now, our friend that's listening to me speaking right now, you have no way to click on the sound of my voice. Statistically, you're likely not going to do anything, right? You're here because you want to learn something. And so what I would tell you is that I better have a bunch of stuff that's going to be of interest to you in my own world, because again, I know you're not going to convert when you listen to me on a podcast. But if you go to my website, then you'll start to build a little bit more of a parasympathetic relationship with me. You'll see the value, because when you go to the website, like the value I give is like, I just saw someone that was selling something I give away for free. They were selling it for $1,800. And I'm like, man, I give that away for free. And I didn't want to say anything. It's about like how to set up your AI projects and stuff like that. So anyway, so you need to come just like Santa Claus or Mrs. Claus, ready to just give away all the goods and let them know, hey, that's over at my website. Mine's podverified.com. I don't know whatever yours is, but you got to be ready to give that stuff away, because that's where people are going to then complete the loop, complete the story, truly get the answers to the questions that they're asking in their head. So don't give pat answers and call it a day. That's not fair to your audience.
Okay, fair enough. So there's some nuance there, right? And there's like value and learning has different subcategories, don't they? Like it's tempting to say like, well, I don't want to just be an entertainer. I want to give a list. I want to give them like a fire hose of information. But then we think about it doesn't feel good to be on the receiving end of that, right? Like even I know when you and I met a couple of weeks ago and I like took the transcript, put it into AI, gave myself like a daily plan. I'm still working through that, right? And even things that we think is like simple and straightforward and hey, just do this to fix your marriage. It's like, hey, like I just need a little tidbit right now, right? Or I just need like a little encouragement, or I need like an idea that I haven't fully understood. Like there's all these levels of like walking someone up, warming up to something. And so let's say like this friend that we're talking to right now, right? And let's say they go through like your kind of 30-day boot camp and they get like media ready and they like figure out their branding and they get on shows. Like what's kind of the roadmap here? Like if someone says, okay, I've heard what Josh has said and I need to take my PR, podcasting, etc. seriously, like what's the game plan?
Yeah, well, are you talking about because all of this feels like a lot and we need to project manage it? Is that kind of what you're asking? Like how do we organize all of that?
Yeah, because it's back to like it feels deceptively simple, right? You look at someone like you and you've got all this stuff figured out, and it's like, but then I've got all this stuff to do, but I don't even know where to begin. So what could or should someone do under your guidance?
Yeah. Well, I've got of course, my biased answer is that, we teach you how to do, we go through and do all of this with you, your AI. And, if you have an assistant that can kind of help, so obviously we do that. And we provide a lot of free resources to kind of help you down that path. Like I've got a free press kit builder at Pod Verified. I've got a free LinkedIn makeover tool, a free website blueprint, kind of makeover if you want to make yourself more attractive to, to podcasters and members of the media, because I can tell you what they're looking for. It's because I'm going to get back to make sure I answer that question correctly in terms of how do we structure this. But again, why this is so critical to do this well. Established podcasts, Robert, like yours, like mine, we get to a point, and this will blow some people's mind, is that, we get pitches on the daily. And in fact, over the course of a month, it is somewhere between 200 and 300 pitches a month. And I can maybe take about 10% of those people. So how do you get into the 10%? Well, again, you're going to have to start with the deep work that I talked about, right? You're going to have to get clarity on what your media brand is. Then what you're going to need to do is anticipate two different audiences. And again, if you want a list of all of this and you want this kind of structured and stuff, again, it's free on my website. It's over at Pod Verified. But what you are going to have to do is you're going to have to appeal to the decision makers. And then you are also going to have to appeal to the audiences. So, the appealing to the decision makers, when you reach out to a podcaster, I already shared the statistics with you. And by the way, the big shows get thousands of pitches, like the Mel Robbins, the Joe Rogans, and the DOAC. It's thousands of pitches. Everybody's got that lottery mentality. So now that you kind of know how the world is here, start with your deep work, figure out your media brand, right? Then you're going to need to be able to communicate that. And a lot of times, we focus our websites are often written and designed for people that are already kind of converted. I think that's a huge mistake. I think that, the best tack, particularly if you're working with a novice media audience that maybe only got 15 minutes of exposure to you. Okay. They're coming in and they are so tippy top of the funnel. So you're going to need to be able to communicate to them very quickly, meaning, yes, I'm the guy or gal you just heard on a podcast. It's me. Here's a quick video of me. Now you can see what I look like. And, in their mind, they're like, yeah, he doesn't look anything like what I thought I heard. He's kind of goofy looking. So anyway, but you're going to have to kind of, concierge and welcome them in. Right. So, and then you tell them, hey, here's the free stuff that you're here for. They're there for free stuff. They're not there to buy your stuff yet. Right? They're there to deepen the relationship. And if you can get that, just imagine that little minute hand on the clock, right? And if you can earn another 15, 20 minutes, not on a podcast, not on social media, not on YouTube, but now they're really in your world where there are far fewer distractions. That's where the conversions are really going to start to happen. And then those hopes that you have for someone buying your book or booking a time with you or joining your newsletter, still a newsletter. It's not a great call to action. Most people are trying to get away from spam. But that's important. And then you also need to make sense to the decision makers. So we were talking about this, right? You have at best, to try to get into that 10% for consideration. So what do podcasters look for? I am looking for, clearly you are a person that knows what you're talking about. You've got authority. You've got some influence. That's kind of a big deal. A lot of podcasters are looking for people that also seem to have a voice that drives a little bit of engagement online, because most podcasters are looking to build their own audience. Like if you ask, podcasters, well, what do you want in your business right now? Most of them want to grow their audience. So if you have a decent audience, if you don't have a decent audience, then you're going to need to work with whatever you do have, right? But you are going to need to provide resources. If you are a speaker and you have no speaker kit on your website, there is a reason you are not getting paid very well as a speaker. It's because you just don't look like you're ready for prime time. People will often follow your leads, right? They'll follow what you say and they'll kind of believe what they read and see. So you need to communicate to members of the media that you are media savvy, that you are a regular media guest, whatever that is for you. So you can't make up stuff, right? So you're going to have to just work with whatever assets you have, but that's going to be really, really critical in order for you to get those placements. So you got to work on that stuff. So go find a human. Yes, AI is really helpful, but AI is honestly, in my experience, really poor at these sorts of things. It always goes into the marketing territory. These are public relations skills that we're talking about. And good public relations professionals spend a lot more time in conversation and getting to know you and figuring out, the best play. And so you're just going to have to do this work. And if you'll do it, it's going to make all of the PR work, all of the visibility work you do for the rest of your life work better. Instead of having a 10% chance of getting on a show, wouldn't you like to have a 20 to 30% chance of getting on that show? Instead of getting 1% of the audience to reply, what would happen if you could get that up to 6 to 7%? A 6 to 700% return just from 1 month of work? It's a no-brainer in my opinion. But again, it's one of those things that leaders have to do the deep work, because guess what? Ain't nobody else going to do it for you. That's the one job that you as the founder, you've got. You have to take this seriously, because a consultant is not going to take it more seriously than you are. They could provide the structure and the guidance and here's the checklist of things that we need to do together. And let me share my brilliance and wisdom along the way. But you're going to have to, founder to founder, I'm telling you, you're going to have to be the one to initiate this, because it's not magically going to appear on your doorstep.
Okay.
How's that for some tough love?
Well, we need it, right? And so, yeah, you need to steer the ship. And it seems like there's areas to be beefed up, right? Like you said, there's the website, or there's LinkedIn, or there's the media readiness. And so it's giving off a better first impression. And I'm always thinking about that. I don't know about you, but sometimes I randomly will dial up Mel Robbins' website or Tony Robbins' website. I'm just okay, what's with these huge public figures? What is on their front page? Is it their photos, their speaking reel, their blog? And I'm how can I kind of emulate that and look at enough of those to be okay, what's good and what's not? And I'm nowhere near on your level, but I get the podcast pitches too, and I feel I haven't quantified it exactly, but there are the factors, right? There was a guy that I had on recently. He invented the video sales letter, but his following was poor, but his notoriety was big. And I know that the content would be good, but I don't really have many expectations of him to promote the episode. But then other people might be of a different mix of that. So it's a fun game to be played. And, hearing about all of these things to know and hearing about what you figured out has me thinking back to the good old podcast cliche, which is still so much fun, of the aha moments and the turning points. So you've been on all these thousands of shows, you've helped all these people, but were you naturally gifted in this way, or was there some kind of transformation you had to go through to go from were you ever a shy guy or had it figured out, or how did you change into this kind of media ready person?
No, it's well, Robert, how did you become a good podcaster? It wasn't because you read a bunch of podcasting books. It's because you did the thing, right? Arthur Schopenhauer, do the thing, have the power. I've now recorded over, 3,000 podcast episodes of my own. Because of that, I have learned through the school of hard knocks. I'm just more comfortable in the water, so to speak, right? So if you've never swum and someone pushes you into the deep end, you're going to freak out a little bit. And you're going to think that you do a lousy job, and you probably are. If you go back and listen to my first few podcasts, I'm not very good. If you go watch some of my early TV segments, I'm really uncomfortable to watch.
Okay.
But the thing is you do the thing. It's the same thing with guesting. So, it's kind of like the advice they give to new stand-up comedians. Listen, go do a dozen open mic nights. Very small audience, but you got to get up there and just get comfortable with it. And then you'll learn those muscles. Now, I will say, you don't want to keep making the same mistake 20 times or 30 times. And then wait a minute, podcast guesting doesn't work. Yeah, it does. You've just been doing it wrong. And unfortunately, most podcasters are never going to tell you. Audiences are never going to tell you. They're just not going to respond. Right. So there's no way to learn that unless you're working with someone that's done this 1,000 times and they're willing to tell you, yeah, that answer, here's how I would say that answer differently. And here's why that's going to work a little bit better for you. So again, AI can do this a little bit, but I just, there's a lot of free stuff out there that you can learn. I think there's some really great YouTubers out there. I can't think of any in particular. But again, my
Josh
stuff's all
Elledge
free
is a
too.
great YouTuber.
So, what's up?
Josh Elledge is a great YouTuber.
No, I'm not, because that's one area of my focus that has not been too. It's real blurry, but we'll get there. We'll get there. One thing at a time. You can't do everything.
Yeah, so put in the reps, get the experience. But still, I'm curious about you and your transformation. Like,
yes,
what were you like when you what were you like when you were younger? Were you meteor ready when you were a teenager?
Yeah, no, of course not. No, I was terrible. I was incredibly nerdy. I wore husky pants that were Velcro, and I was terribly insecure. I always remember wanting to have a girlfriend in middle school and high school, and I gotta tell you, like, I was a late bloomer. But maybe it was because I felt so disadvantaged. That I'm like, well, I'm just going to work harder at this thing. And I did join the U.S. Navy as a journalist, and that was huge for me because I got to learn from folks like Adrian Cronauer, who, if you've ever heard of the movie Good Morning Vietnam, Robin Williams was in that. It's based on Adrian Cronauer's life when he had his stint in the Vietnam War. And so I'm lucky in that I kept pushing, and I keep on pushing every single day. A lot of folks might look at what I do day to day and go, I just get exhausted thinking about it. It's because you're not me. And I would look at like what my wife does as a family therapist, and I'm like, there's no way I could do that. Right. And we all kind of gravitate toward the things that we can abide by. And then, it's kind of like atomic habits. What should I be doing? Well, what do you not get tired of? I don't get tired of learning from other people. I'm fascinated in other people. So because of that, I'm an okay podcaster, and they haven't fired me yet. So I just keep on showing up with another episode.
Well, there you go. Back to the micro commitments, right? You say that when, you're a podcast guest, like the clock is ticking, right? You're just trying to get them to your website, give them some free stuff, just get them to enter your word a little bit. And if you're podcasting or you have a show, just like do a few more shows or guest on a few more podcast appearances. And it's encouraging. I love your energy. Somehow it exhausts me just kind of trying to keep up with you, but that's okay. But as far as everything that we've talked about in your world, right? You've got your Up My Influence, you've got Pod Verified, you learned so much. But in this conversation, do you think there might be a missing question that I should be asking you? I just don't know to ask you.
Let's see, what would be most valuable for the audience? And I think that is, I think building upon, Robert, just a little bit more of what you talked about. You don't have to do what I do. My delivery, my style, how I communicate, what's on my website. That's just for me and my audience, like what I do. You don't have to replicate me, right? That's just, it might inspire a few ideas. But again, the good news is if you were to go and look at my websites 10, 20 years ago, they were awful. And, it's just, I will say this is the longer you stay doing the same thing, the more you're going to get better at it. And to continue with that train of thought, it gets easier. It really does. The more you do something. So it's, whereas like my initial interviews, when I was interviewing people, I had to do a lot of prep. I don't have to do a lot of prep now. I'm usually pretty nimble, because I was able, I was able to just kind of, just stick with it and learn this, learn that. And it's like where wisdom comes from. Wisdom largely comes from experience, activity, knowledge, do the thing again, have the power. So again, good news is start small, but do aim in the right direction. Right. So yeah. I see a lot of podcast guests just out there flailing, and they're frustrated. It's not working. When you're doing the right activity, it's like, if you want to learn to swim, probably work on your stroke. a little bit. Because it's going to be a lot easier and you're not going to be as freaked out thinking you're going to drown because you've worked with an expert who can teach you the stroke and the kicking and all that sort of thing. I'm not a very super good swimmer, but I have seen that when you do this, when you stretch like this, when you scoop like this, when you breathe like that, it makes it a lot easier. So a lot of those things you're just going to pick up by doing the thing, reviewing, working in real time, and you will get better. And trust me when I say, I've built a couple 7-figure companies, 0 paid ads. I've never spent a dime in ads. Everything I've always done is just serving audiences in the media. And I love that because I don't like to sell. Like, I just love giving away a lot of value. I'm a good teacher. I'm a little bit of a nerdy professor, as you could tell.
Sure.
But if I could grow my business by just doing that, it's a good gig because then I just don't feel that discomfort of feeling like I have to talk somebody into something. Like, you give them all the right principles, you give them all the right value, and you let people kind of make their decisions up for themselves.
Nice. That's a good way of going about it. And you're in the right profession for yourself. And I'm amazed that a Navy guy isn't good at swimming. What gives?
No, I should say I'm okay. I'm not a fast lap swimmer. I'll just say it like that. Yeah, no,
okay.
No, well, I can survive in the water if I needed to for a little bit of time. But
okay, well, fair enough. Well, that's reassuring.
To the other end, probably not going to happen.
Okay, well, fair enough. Well, it's you're giving us a lot of great life lessons and business lessons in general, right? Like, have an actual goal, have an actual mission, work on it every day. And so that way you're not just going in that direction, going back. Cause like you said, there's a lot of the entrepreneurial ADD, right? Someone might dabble in this niche or that product. And they wonder why they're working so dang hard, not getting the results because they're not committed. Yep. They don't get the coaching from someone like you. They're not going out and testing their idea like a comedian does. They're not getting traffic, all these things that a lot of people just they don't know what they don't know. And as far as maybe getting people on the right track, I know you said that you're all about giving away the free stuff and you choose your own adventure. But if someone is intrigued about what they heard today, I know you have Pod Verified and your kind of boot camp and everything. But what are some logical next steps that our friend listening should go and check out?
Sure. So at Pod Verified, you can get your free Pod Verified score. It's kind of like Credit Karma for podcasting. And then you're going to get clarity over where you are and also what caliber of shows you should be reaching out to. That is all free. And then I'm going to teach you how to do this. It's all free. If we never talk, I am okay with having made that impact because, as podcasters, if we can help guests do a better job, then everybody wins. If we can help guests stop the spamming, my God, we're going to make podcasting so much better because unfortunately, a bunch of marketing bros stepped into podcast guesting and they just said, well, we're just going to spam and spray and pray at podcasters. And that's how we're going to get you on all these amazing shows. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It is just a really, really poor way. It's not very classy. So what I want to do is help you step into this world. I want you to maintain your authority, your class, the reputation that you've built. And I want you to navigate this world in a way. I don't want you going up and doing a stand-up set if you haven't worked on the skills of how to be a comedian. And in this case, it's simple media training skills. I know you know your stuff well. I know you know the answers to the questions. That's not enough for this world. That's enough for you to feel smart. But if you're smart and broke, based on, just based on that little marketing effort or PR effort, you're not going to do it for very long. And then you're going to be I guess I just got to go back to normal lead gen, right? You don't have to do that. You can build an enormous business by serving audiences. And in fact, I'm biased, but I think it's just so much more enjoyable. That's my bias. I'm sorry, your question, the website. To my friend listening, listen, open up your browser right now. I know you're busy, unless you're driving or whatever. Just note this, okay? Very simple. It's www.podverified.com. com. And that's where you're going to get all the free stuff. And by the way, I'm always looking for great podcast guests. So we just have a simple application. You go on my website and, happy to have you as a guest there and happy to serve you, give you a bunch of value and hopefully help you make some great connections and really put you in a position where if you've been doing what you're doing for any length of time, you deserve to be recognized. You have a lot of value to give. And there are so many audiences that are looking to connect with you. Yeah, they can get answers in other ways through AI or whatever, but hearing it human to human is just so much more impactful. And through that human connection, you can end up doing all sorts of business that you wouldn't be doing otherwise by hanging out behind your computer screen.
Very nice. So we need to take podcasting and the media seriously, especially in this AI world. And I still remember 10 years ago, I sent you an email saying, hey, there's this concept and that concept. And you said hey, that thing you're asking about is called a hook. So there's problems to be solved and skills to be had as far as figuring out our hook and our messaging and talking to people and overcoming the nervousness. And, I think there's kind of a recurring micro story you and I keep mentioning here of this idea that maybe if you go about podcast guesting, stand-up comedian, whatever the example is, you go about it in a wrong way and you kind of fall and scrape your knee and you get hurt and you get discouraged and you say, oh my gosh, I don't want to do that again. But and then
stand-up comedy doesn't work. Or it doesn't work for people like me. Listen, that's what everybody says before they start doing it. I'm not playing bass guitar. 2.5 years ago or 2 years ago, I couldn't play the bass guitar. I got one and I had kid fingers. I can't do anything with it. But today I can do 150 songs. And it's just because, I got a course. I started learning, hired a teacher and then just started playing along with a lot of YouTube. And, now here I am. And it's a learned skill that if I can do it, you can do it. Because again, I was terrible at first. And if you can just work on this a little bit, it's a good gig. It's a really good gig to get all of your business organically, naturally, because people like you and connected with you and appreciated all the generosity and value that you brought.
Yes, a great place to be. So get beefed up, learn this podcasting skill, and the place to start that is podverify.com, because the first step is to just know where you're at, right? Know where your starting point is. That way you can begin to improve. So podverify.com is the place where you should go. And that way you can figure out your authority score, your professional credibility, your influence score, which is how visible and active you appear online today, and then your guesting activity, like recent interviews and appearances. And that way you can begin to make some progress here with your website, press kit, LinkedIn authority, and guesting activity. And kind of, as we've been saying, navigate the rules of engagement. And of course, you are a unique flower in the forest, and you have lots of amazing things that make you stand out. But there's also kind of a proper path to success that Mr. Josh Elledge at Pod Verify can help you. So that way you can get on this path to the organic growth and stop trying so hard and stop being so frustrated. So podverify.com is the place to go. And before I let you go, Mr. Josh Elledge, you know that it's all about the soundbite that we can pluck out of the show. And so in spirit of that, I like to try to stump my guest at the very end of the show and scare them a little bit by asking about a fun or interesting quote or lesson that has served them. So what comes to mind for you as far as a fun or interesting quote or lesson?
Well, I don't know how fun it is, but I really like the Abraham Lincoln quote that, a man or woman is just about as happy as they make up their mind to be. I'm paraphrasing a little bit there, and that's easier said than done. But again, when we make the decision about who it is that we are, right? What are our beliefs about ourselves? And then we expect that in the world. I don't want to get too, I hope I'm not getting too woo-woo here, but it really matters a lot, because then that carries over to how you communicate about yourself. Like, I can look at a front page of a website and you can generally tell a lot about the psychology of the owner just by looking at how they present themselves or how they hide themselves. And sometimes that's appropriate, based on the type of business. But largely, our subconscious nonverbals do all of the work. And here's the thing, audiences feel it. If you are, and this is a really interesting thing I've noticed, broy marketers typically do very poorly in podcast guesting. And the reason why is because it's really hard to fake it when you're expected to talk for a little bit of length of time. Hopefully folks can feel what's in my heart. And I try to wear that on my sleeve. But this is all good news based upon who you believe yourself to be and what you do to support that belief in yourself. So if you believe that you're generous and you give value and you are okay with people getting lots of value from you and never giving you a dime, I think, that's a little bit closer to where you probably will thrive as a podcast guest. So that's a mishmash, I'd say, of I didn't think he's going to take that Abraham Lincoln quote and go that direction, but there we go.
But that's okay. You're a high energy kid in the candy store, right? You enjoy what you do, and it reminds me of like when you're in someone's car, and not in their house, but in their car, right? And just like how cluttered is it, or is it too clean? And there's like this all the little subconscious things that give off about them, similar to that website, and like what first impression are we giving and what in our insides are giving out on our outsides. And if we don't like what that is, well, then we can kind of do that work that it's not instant, but it takes a while, and have that feedback loop and kind of improve your beliefs and improve your actions and all that stuff that goes with that. And it gets way too deep for a podcast, but it's all in service of getting to that really good life, that really good business, and helping other people. And we can begin on that journey by checking out podverify.com. As Mr. Josh said, there's all kinds of freebies. You can even learn right on that very front page, and you can even book time with him and not book a call unless you're ready for that, unless you're kind of beyond the scariness of that. And so if you want to take this seriously and you see what people like Josh have created, and you want to kind of get more on that track, then Pod Verified is the place to go. And man, Mr. Josh, we have quite a history, and every time I talk to you, I'm filled with like 80 new ideas. So thanks for showing up and helping us out today.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, now we just need to focus. And by the way, thank you so much for your generosity in talking about what I do. And I hope it does, the ideas I've shared really bring a lot of value to someone who's really they're just trying to do what they want. They don't want to do the uncomfortable stuff in business, like sales and selling at people and lead gen. And maybe that feels yucky to you. I hear you. I feel you. I work with a lot of people who feel just like you do, and you're in good company here. Happy to help.
Reassuring. And so podverified.com is the place to go. And thank you very much, Mr. Josh.
Robert, it's been great. Thank you.